Weller 12, extremely hard to find, but if you do, it's probably like $300. Is it worth it? Well, let me introduce you to the whiskey and we're gonna find out with this review. Okay guys, welcome back. Another review. I'm bringing you Weller Wheated Bourbon 12-year-old, coming in at 90 proof, 45% alcohol. This bourbon is incredibly hard to find. It is part of the super allocated distribution from Buffalo Trace. Very hard to get your hands on. When you do, it's the absurd secondary market prices. But it's a wheated bourbon, first to their channel, so let's go through this whiskey with an open mind and see if we can get anything we love about this. As always, thanks for watching and cheers. All right guys, first incredibly hard to find allocated whiskey right now, Weller 12. Quick note, this is not my bottle. My buddy, Mark, thanks buddy, let me borrow his bottle for the review for you guys, so let's thank him in the comments. This should be a very smooth, delicate nose. Let's see what it is. Ooh, it's a little fragrant. Actually, I got a lot of fruit on that. That's very orchardy, little apples, maybe a smidge of coconut. It's incredibly smooth. There's no bite. Again, this is a wheated bourbon, so what that means is the second main grain is wheat instead of the normal rye that's used. The mash bill is undisclosed. We don't know what that is. However, we can assume that it's obviously more than rye or malted barley. But very, very smooth. No pops here, no pepper, no cinnamon, no nutmeg. Very grainy, very sweet. And when I say sweet, you got some vanilla, honey. Definitely the brown sugar influence from that corn. But a surprisingly amount of fruit. And again, I said coconut in that initial nose. It's definitely a hint there. What I'm gonna say, I grab all of those things, but they're all very subtle. Doesn't have a big body. I'm not grabbing onto a lot of good flavors here. It's all like little dashes of this and that. And that's not necessarily bad, but I kind of want some substance and some bodies to my noses. I really want to be excited to drink this. And right now with this nose, I'm not super excited, but it's definitely a very smooth nose. And for somebody who may not like high ABVs or bitey whiskeys, this might invite you in to have a drink. So I think what I'm gonna give the nose here, I'm gonna give the nose a 3.5. And I actually am surprised there. I thought based on that first nosing, I wasn't gonna give it a higher score, but the more I'm getting into here, it's actually very, very fruity, and that was unexpected. So I'm happy with that. I do like some fruit in my bourbons. It's not a whole, full, well-rounded, like full body nose, but it has a lot of good characteristics going on. And now the more I'm nosing it, I actually am curious to see what this tastes like. So with that, 3.5 on the nose, let's taste this thing. And as usual, before we taste, gotta check out these legs. They're a little quick. This is a lighter bodied whiskey. It's probably gonna be a little oily. Coat the mouth really fast, nothing to chew on. Let's sip it. It has been a long time since I've had a sub 100 proof whiskey, and my goodness, this is so light, it is so delicate. It's a little tiny burny down the throat, but other than that, it is incredibly smooth. Very light bodied, as I said. I'm not getting a whole lot on that first sip. There's a hint of caramel. I'm getting a little of those apples, maybe a little raspberry, some red fruit there. A lot of corn and vanilla influence. Right now it tastes a little hollow, so hopefully the second sip's a little better. A little more brown sugar there, a little more fruit. But again, it kind of feels a little empty to me. There's not a whole lot of body here and not a whole lot of complexities. I like being able to pick out lots of notes, and I like them layering, and I like them coating your tongue in different ways. And depending on when you talk and how you breathe, you get different notes on different parts of your tongue. It's great, that's a fun experience. But with this, it's kind of too smooth, and that's not bad, I guess, in general, but for me, I'm looking for a little more robustness in my whiskey. So I think the 90 proof and the wheat here doesn't fit my profile, but doesn't mean it won't fit your profile. But right now, through 2 sips, I'm not in love with this bourbon, so let's do one final sip, see if anything changes. Yeah, not a whole lot. I'm gonna say it got a little more mouthfeel to it on that final one. I let it sit in my mouth a little longer. I was able to chew on it just a little bit more. But other than a little caramel, that red fruit, kind of the corn and wheat influence, there's not a whole lot going on. And that's, again, that's fine. but I like something to really grab onto and something that's really nice and layered. And this doesn't have that, which is, again, it's okay. But I think because of that, I'm gonna give the palate a 3. I think it's better than some bourbons you're gonna find on the shelves. But for my palate, I'm not super in love with it, and that's okay. But I think a 3 on the palate is fair. Let's look at that finish. The finish is fine as well. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but there's not a whole lot of long-lasting notes in here, and it's kind of like immediately gone. It's a quick release finish, I would say, and with those notes that you get in the quick time frame that you have, just vanilla, a little bit of fruit, not a whole lot going on. It's kind of a disappointing finish, actually. So because the finish is not really long and there's not a whole lot of flavors in that finish, I'm gonna give the finish a 2.5. It's not a great finish, and again, I think the lower ABV kind of doesn't help with that. But I do, even if it is a quick release, I should be able to get a little bit more flavors on there, and I'm not. I'm getting a little more of it on the front of my tongue, and again, it's really vanilla. It's heavy vanilla on that finish there. And again, the apple's a little orchardy, but nothing crazy. So I'm gonna give the finish a 2.5 there. Let's look at that value. Now the value with this is extremely difficult to talk about because this is heavily allocated and it really falls suspect to those secondary market prices. So not only will you have an incredibly hard time finding these, depending on where you are, but I'm in Maryland and you're not gonna find this. But when you do, the stores are asking exorbitant prices because people pay for them. So you might see this for $250, $300. Do not pay that. Number one, you're being part of the system and we don't like you, so please stop doing that. Number two, it is absolutely not worth this. There are so many other whiskeys I would rather have behind me that are less or equal to MSRP of this, which is $70. So MSRP at $70, this makes a lot more sense to drink, but do not drink this for $300. It is absolutely not worth it. Old Forester 1920 Prohibition, right behind me, is such a magnificent bourbon compared to this, and it's $65 and available almost literally anywhere. You can walk to a store right now and probably find it. So the problem with this is I don't know if I can give it a score based on MSRP, because if it was MSRP and widely available, then I would think it would have a much better score. But right now, I cannot find it. If I do, you're gonna have to join a lottery or you're gonna have to pay a dumb price for it, and I will not do that for what's in that bottle. So for value, I need to act like what the market says right now. And what the market says right now is dumb prices and people are dumb to pay them. So because of that, the value gets a 1. Absolutely not worth secondary market prices. If I had to say a score, if you had it for MSRP, I'd probably give it a 3 because $70 for this is pretty decent. Again, not amazing. I think it should probably be 50 or under if you actually want my sincere opinion on that. That should be a $50 or $40 whiskey. Same problem with Eagle Rare 10 up behind me over here. It's the same issue with them. But I have to score this in reality of the markets today, and the way that the Weller and Buffalo Trace stuff works is secondary market prices and liquor stores are doing that, and it's just bad. So because of that, I can't give it a good value because it is not worth these secondary prices. So that's a 1. Look at the overall. Looks like that's 10 out of 20. Now, it's gonna look pretty harsh, but seriously, that's only just a value. If the secondary market did not exist, this would have a much better score. It might be up in the 13s, seriously. But this is not a super amazing whiskey based on the hype surrounding all of it. And I don't think that hype is fair to them. It's all of the bourbon fanatics that did all this with Pappy Van Winkle and all that kind of stuff. That's another video for another time. I was being as honest as possible with this review, and I don't want to make it seem like I am putting this whiskey down. It's just my sincere opinion on this. And again, it's just mainly the value that killed this thing. Otherwise, it's a solid whiskey. If you find it for $70 or under, definitely do yourself a favor and get it. Experiencing Weller is good for you. It's a wheated bourbon. They are pretty good. They're smooth, but do not feed the machine and pay secondary prices for that. Not worth it. Let's see what Miss GC says. Okay, wife time. Now, finally for once, you have a whiskey that's under 50% alcohol. That's 45%. So it should be smooth and a little lighter for you. So see if you like that thing. But you probably won't.
Bad.
Maybe she'll do a second sip. It's been a while since I've had a second sip for her. that was a little greedy on my part. So what do you don't hate it though?
I don't hate it.
Is it smoother than you've been having recently? Because she's been
Yes.
having like 100, 120, 128 proof whiskeys. So like she's been trooping here.
Yeah, it's smoother.
Okay, well there you go. Hey, like this video, give a like, subscribe to it, consider doing so, and I'll see you guys next time.